Hello and welcome to this lab demonstration on accessing iSCSI storage. After completing this lab video, you will be able to configure access to an iSCSI data store. Storage is a fundamental part of almost every VMware solution. It is very important that you know which types of storage are supported by iSCSI hosts and how to configure the iSCSI hosts to access the storage. One way to access a network-based shared storage is using iSCSI. The advantage of iSCSI is that it is simpler and cheaper than fiber channel storage. It works over IP, so you can run iSCSI over your existing Ethernet network. Especially for lab or test environments, it is a great choice. You can easily find cheap network-attached storage servers that support iSCSI, or you can build your own iSCSI server using free software that you can install even on older computers and get started with network-based block-level storage. For this lab, you should already be familiar with the vSphere client user interface and you should have a basic understanding of storage solutions. In this lab exercise, we will first view the existing iSCSI configuration on one of our iSCSI hosts. Then we will configure another iSCSI host to access the same iSCSI storage. Configuring this other iSCSI host will be split into three tasks. Add a VM kernel port group to a standard switch, then add the iSCSI software adapter to the iSCSI host, and finally connect the iSCSI software adapter to the port group and to the actual iSCSI storage. I'm sure I provided you enough good reasons to watch the following video on accessing iSCSI storage. Now, let's get started. In the first task of this lab, we will view the configuration of the existing iSCSI configuration of iSCSI host SA iSCSI01.vclass.local. We want to perform the configuration on vCenter server SA VCSA01, so the first step is to connect to this server. Then we log in as administrator at vsphere.local and the password. We want to have a look at the iSCSI configuration of iSCSI host SA iSCSI01. So in the navigation pane, we open the ICM data center, the folder lab servers, and that's where we find this iSCSI host. We select the host, and then under configure, we start at the storage adapters. And you can see that there is one iSCSI software adapter up here. We select this adapter, and now we can have a look at its properties. The status is enabled. The name of the adapter is VMHBA65. It's an iSCSI software adapter. Here we see the iSCSI name of this iSCSI adapter. And when we click the Devices tab, we can see the LANs that are provided by this adapter. And you can see that LAN 0 has a data store on it. That's our ICM data store. The other LANs are of different sizes, but in terms of a data store, they are not consumed. That means that no data store has been created on these LANs so far. When we click on Dynamic Discovery, we can see the IP address of our iSCSI server and the port. In this case, 172.20.10.15, port 3260. Now we want to have a look at the network port binding. So we see the port groups that exist on this host. And now we click IP storage. And then we click View Details. On this VM kernel adapter, we see that the port group policy is compliant, that the path status is active, and if we have a look at the VM kernel adapter and its IP settings, then we can see that our adapter has IP address 172.20.10.61. It's statically configured. So this is the IP address of our VM kernel adapter. And this adapter, which is part of the IP storage port group, is the one that connects to our iSCSI storage. That's the configuration on ESXi host SA-ESXi01. Now we want to configure iSCSI on ESXi host SA-ESXi02. This configuration is split into 3 tasks, and the first one is to add a VM kernel port group to the standard switch of ESXi host SA-ESXi02. So we select the ESXi host in the navigator pane. We click the Configure tab, and under Networking, VM kernel adapters, we click Add Networking. When we add a network, we have to decide what kind of adapter we want to add. In our case, we want to add a VM kernel network adapter because this adapter is used for ESXi host specific services. In our example, it will be used to access the iSCSI provider. So we click Next. Now we have to select the target device. And we want to add a new port group to an existing standard switch. So we select the second option. Select an existing standard switch. We click Browse. And from the available switches, we select vSwitch 0. We click Next. Now we assign the name, the network label of this port group, and we call it IP storage. All the other values can be left at their default, so we are not configuring any VLAN. It's IPv4. We use the standard MTU, and it's the standard or the default TCP/IP stack. None of these services will run on this port group. We want to use it for iSCSI access only. So we click Next. The IP address of our VM kernel adapter should use a static IPv4 address, and that address is 172.20.10.62 with a 24-bit subnet mask. We don't want to change the default gateway of this adapter, which is already configured as 172.20.10.10, and also the DNS server address that already exists on the adapter will remain the same. So we click Next. Now we can review the settings. Then we click Finish. And you see that we have a new adapter, VMK1, on port group IP storage, which is found on vSwitch 0. And the IP address within this port group is 172.20.10.62. Now we will add the iSCSI software adapter to the ESXi host. So we can stay here on the Configure tab, but this time we have to select Storage Adapters under Storage. Click Add Software Adapter. We confirm that we want to add a software iSCSI adapter, not fiber channel or anything else, so we click OK. And we can now see the new adapter, the iSCSI software adapter, named VMHBA65, has been added and is shown in the list. When we click Properties down here, we can see that the status is enabled. We see the name of the adapter, VMHPA65, and we also see the iSCSI name down here. Now we are ready for the last task of this lab exercise. We now want to connect this iSCSI software adapter to the storage. To do that, what we have to do is add the storage adapter, which is anyway still selected. To connect the iSCSI software adapter to the storage, we click Dynamic Discovery. We click Add. We type in the IP address of the iSCSI provider. .20.10.15. We leave the default port and we click OK. You see that there is an information on the top that says it's recommended to rescan the software adapter, but we won't do that right now because we still have to do the network port binding first, and after we did that we will do the rescan. So that's the next step. We click on Network Port Binding. Here we click Add. And now we have to select the port group that we want to use to reach that iSCSI provider. In our case, this should be the IP storage port group that we created earlier. We select it and we click OK. So now we configured the adapter to use this port group. We configured the target IP address. Now we are ready to rescan the adapter. So up here, we click Rescan Adapter. While the adapter rescan is in progress, let me tell you what the rescan storage option, which is left of rescan adapter, is used for. Other than rescan adapter, which only rescans the currently selected adapter, rescan storage would scan all adapters for new storage devices. So our rescan is complete. Let's have a look at the properties. Status is enabled. And now let's have a look at the devices. And as you can see, we got access to the LANs that exist on this iSCSI provider. And we see the same list that we saw on the other ESXi host, SA-ESXi01. The data store was automatically discovered and mounted. So we already have access to that data store from this ESXi host. The other LANs, as we have seen also on the other ESXi host, are not consumed at the moment, so they are ready to set up a new data store there. Congratulations! You have completed the Accessing iSCSI Storage Lab demonstration video. In this lab, we first had a look at the iSCSI configuration of ESXi host SA-ESXi01. Then we configured another ESXi host, SA-ESXi02, to access the same iSCSI data store. How did we do that? We added a VM kernel port group to an existing standard switch. We added the iSCSI software adapter to the ESXi host, and then we connected the iSCSI adapter to the storage. And finally, we verified that we have access to the LANs of the iSCSI provider. You now know how to connect an ESXi host to iSCSI storage. This is an important skill when managing a vSphere solution. Thank you for watching this lab demonstration video. I hope the knowledge acquired here will help you with your daily job assignments. And good luck as you continue your journey in VMware world.